Fellas, on today's video we're gonna do something a bit wacky, and I say that because this character uses one skill that belongs in a family of skills that happen to be a bit awkward to use. This is a Bleeding Splitting Steel Deadeye. Now, unlike the previous video, we are gonna do a two-parter on this one, mostly because I am nowhere near done with the character, as there are a couple of quirks to iron out before calling it a success. So far, this has been an interesting experiment, to say the least. It started out as a dual-wielding Deadeye, then it quickly became a one-handed raider, but then I went back to Deadeye, as this ascendancy provides us with the strongest point of the build, but also the most challenging part, Rupture. Rupture is a mechanic where crits that inflict bleeding also inflict Rupture, which makes enemies take more damage from bleeding. This effect can stack 3 times but greatly reduces bleeding duration on enemies. It sounds great on paper, and whenever it procs during practice, stuff melts. But see, right now that is the biggest issue. This is why I am not done with the character just yet. This build requires critical hits to deal the big ticket bleeds. This in turn implies focusing a lot of the gear towards not only physical damage and bleed mods, but also plenty of critical stuff, alongside using a rather awkward skill. With all honesty, these steel skills are some of the most mind-boggling things in the entire game. It's literally a skill that requires reloading. In order to deal more damage with hits and ailments, Splitting Steel requires steel shards. Every 12 shots you gotta reload your magazine, otherwise you are throwing empty casings and that does you no good. So far, it's been a rather interesting journey. It has potential, especially when pairing the whole setup with the Deadeye. Alongside Rupture, the speed and free chains are just too good to pass up, which is why I chose this Ascendancy instead of the Gladiator or Ascendant, though those might work just as good without really investing into crits at all. But we might revisit those ideas maybe in a future league. For now, let us focus on this Deadeye. So if you are new around here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, otherwise a rating and a comment are always appreciated. And with that said, let's talk about reloading every so often that you'd probably make some LARPer out there pop a vein or two. Alright everyone, let's discuss this loadout. And even though Triple G just nerfed the bleed modifier from Elder weapons, we still want an Elder one-hander, either a sword or axe, with plenty of physical damage to boot, but also the damage over time multiplier for bleeding from hits with this weapon, alongside critical strike chance. The thicker the weapon, the stronger the bleed. Mine is decent, but these weapons are kinda hard to come by for some god-awful reason this league, so try to get something similar to mine. The body armor is... actually, I just realized as I'm recording this that mine is both Hunter and Elder influence. But see, the important thing is we need an additional curse and attack crit chance, and both happen to be Hunter modifiers, so awakening 2 armors together isn't even that mandatory. Whoever sold me this armor probably didn't know that, but now you do. Moving on to the helmet, it has Splitting Steel damage as the enchantment. Optimally speaking, it will be Elder influenced for the nearby enemies take increased physical damage, but since I am doing the good old ailment immunity in this character, that takes priority. Up to you though. The amulet has fist damage over time multiplier, and currently it is anointed with Blade Master, but I am thinking of swapping it to Cleaving. This is going to happen by the next video, once I fix the accuracy situation. But anyways, it also has negative mana cost of skills crafted on it. One ring has vulnerability on hit, alongside negative mana cost crafted on it. However, the other curse is in the gauntlets, Hemophilia with Despair on hit as a corrupted implicit. This is far cheaper than getting another ring with Despair alongside the useful defensive modifiers. Plus, Hemophilias are kinda mandatory since we want to pop bleeding enemies and also get a bit more bleed chance. The other ring has useful stuff, you know, life, resists, intelligence, and some negative mana cost of skills crafted on it. The belt is enchanted with enemies maimed by you take 8% increased damage over time alongside life and resistances. The jewel on the belt is a hypnotic eye with life, resists, and damage over time while holding a shield. The boots are bubonic trails, with 2 abyssal sockets, housing a searching and a murderous eye jewel, with life, damage over time while holding a shield, and other stuff that you might require, resistances or attributes, or maybe even crit chance. And the shield is an Awakener Orb Smash, with minimum power charges and minimum frenzy charges. With all honesty, I will more than likely reroll prefixes because I'd like global fist damage alongside more life, but for now this one is working just fine. Finally, for flasks, a Witchfire Brew, a Sulfur, and a Diamond. Now yes, the Witchfire and the Hemophilia Corruption are kinda redundant together. The thing is, you are going to run out of the flask sometimes, and without the Corrupted implicit in the gloves, you will be cursing enemies with a single curse, effectively making the Hunter modifier on the body armor useless. This is why, despite the redundancy of the current setup, we want both things on this build. Now before moving on, remember that everything needs as much life, resistances, chaos res and attributes. I'm also building towards avoiding elemental ailments, which also costs me a suffix. You know, things to keep in mind when getting up. But with all of that said, let's talk about the passive skill tree. So far, this is a level 92 Deadeye. We side with no bandits and for Pantheons, Lunaris or Solaris and either Shakari or Aberrath, depending on the situation. For the Ascendancy, our first node is Rupturing as we want that bleed DPS as soon as possible. From there, Gathering Winds for the Tailwind and Gale Force. Afterwards, Ricochet for the free chain and finally Wind Ward, to get some damage reduction if we get hit while having Gale Force stacks. Now for the tree itself. Unfortunately, we require 2 Cluster Jewel setups, because like it or not, the tree itself is kinda lackluster for tonight's shenanigans, so we're gonna rush our way to these Jewel sockets. But first, we're gonna grab Crimson Dance and the bleed nodes above it, you know, to not rely on enemies moving to take damage from bleeding, and also bleed DPS. Anyways, the first large cluster jewel has 8 passives at most, with Drive the Destruction, Wound Aggravation and Martial Prowess. We take the 3 notables in this cluster jewel. Now all of the medium clusters are identical. We want Phlebotomist and Wound Aggravation on all of them. However, I am aware that Wasting Affliction is stronger than Wound Aggravation. That is my goal for the next video. I haven't changed these jewels just yet because I want the replacements to have chaos resistance too. We'll see though. Anyways, in the other setup, the large cluster jewel has 8 passives at most, with Exploit Weakness and Master the Fundamentals, but we only take 5 passives here. Medium clusters are the same as the previous, and again, they might change by the next video. So yeah, from there on out, we want any damage over time enabling node that we can get. The Dirty Techniques cluster, Razor's Edge, Defiance and the shield nodes around it, some aura stuff, jewel sockets, life anywhere and everywhere we can spec into it, but finally elemental ailment avoidance through the crystal skin wheel and also the thick skin life wheel. However, both of these nodes and their respective small passives alongside the helmet craft round up to 95 elemental avoidance chance. The last 5% we are gonna get through harvest jewel implicit crafts. But if you don't really care about this, feel free to ditch it and invest those points somewhere else. Up to you. Anyways, the jewels themselves have life, any crit chance that you can get, and any bleed damage modifier that you can afford to cram into there too. In some cases they also have resistances or attributes, but it all depends on what you need at that point. But yeah, so far this is the tree. Again, I might change the cluster jewels, we'll see. Maybe get a bit more life by leveling up, but again, we'll see about that by the next video. So with that said, let's talk about the gem setups. Alright, so in the body armor we want Phantasmal Splitting Steel, Link to Brutality, Awakened Swift Affliction, Awakened Deadly Ailments, Chance to Bleed and Awakened Vicious Projectiles. In the helmet, Precision, Pride and Herald of Purity, with all of them linked to Enlighten level 3. In the gloves, Corrupting Fever, linked to Efficacy, Empower and Brutality. In the shield, Phantasmal Ancestral Protector, linked to multiple totems and Anomalous Maim. In the weapon, Flame Dash and Enduring Cry, linked to Second Wind. And in the boots, War Banner and a Portal Gem. But with all of that said, let us wrap up this initial overview of the character. And as I said, there is room for improvement. Weapon-wise, I don't think that I'll find something better, especially for cheap. So right now my sword is doing just fine. Cluster Jewel-wise, you all know some changes are required. My problem right now is that the bulk of my positive chaos resistance is coming from my medium cluster jewels, and also some intelligence that is in those too. And as I record this right now, there aren't many choices online, so I've got my work cut out for myself for the conclusion of this character. I may even change the shield, but I also want to experiment with a wack idea regarding the amulet and a certain delve modifier. We'll see though, there are plenty of things I can do. So far the character has performed decently, as I've seen it deal great damage, but I've also got instances where the damage was non-existent. Granted, certain map mods can and will kill your DPS. Things like bleed avoidance, phase reduction, hexproof, etc. But overall there is potential to achieve greatness and I gotta get back to it. So keep an eye out open for this character's conclusion because it should deliver fun. Fingers crossed. Anyways, that is gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching tonight's content. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, a rating and a comment are always appreciated. Take care, have a nice weekend, and peace out.